Today we're talking about time and the dimensional implications. This sermon is going to blow your mind. If you've already seen me talk about time, you'll be a little bit more prepared. If you've never thought about these concepts, it's gonna be mind-blowing to you, and so I hope you enjoy it. It's the way that I talk about time is very different than the way that I've ever seen anyone else talk about time. Someone recently sent me some Terence McKenna videos, which I believe he actually he started to think about time in the way that I think about time. And not to say that he isn't more advanced than me in other ways, but I do think that his understanding of time was a little bit, it was correct, but I think that he had a few limitations that prevented him from exploring some of the ways that I think. Would love to have a conversation with him. I assume he's not alive anymore, but if he was, I would. Okay, so what's going on with time? Time is considered the fourth dimension. Spatial dimensions composed of physical reality do exist, and we exist within them. I'm gonna read from the book for a little bit, and then I'm gonna explain it to you all. And we've covered this a lot. I do have some GIFs that I can pull up, but I will try my best to explain it because Instagram and TikTok can't see the GIFs. But what I do want to, I'm sliding all around in my chair. This is what's happening. I feel like I have this pillow. I need to buy a better chair. Is what's happening. And this is an ongoing issue. How many times have I complained about this in Camp Church? Okay. Here we go. Let's talk about time. What the heck is time? What the heck is the third dimension? And we're going to talk about what it means to be trapped in the third dimension and what it means to be trapped in time and how we can sort of move beyond the limitations of time with our consciousness and with our technology. So time is considered the fourth dimension. Everybody knows that, right? We've got time as the fourth dimension. Spatial dimensions composed of physical reality do exist, and we exist within them. But fortunately, they are not everything that exists, nor are they everything that we exist within. There are infinite dimensions. Physical dimensions extend upward and downward from the third dimension. They become pretty incomprehensible at the fourth and fifth dimensions. This incomprehension is due to the complex reality that these dimensions occupy and that our limited physical only viewpoint. The outdated understandings of the universe as composed of physical space have limited our understanding of the true nature of these higher dimensional realms. Physicality is only a singular I'm going to explain all this. If you don't understand what I'm saying, don't worry. I'm going to explain it. Physicality is only a singular manifestation of universal consciousness. Everything that is not physical that you experience, like emotions, mood, love, feelings, intuitions, hopefulness, and desire are also manifestations of universal consciousness. Like physicality, these are aspects of dimensions. What does this mean? This means, I don't know how I'm going to explain this, honestly. The best way I can describe it is if you're in a city, right? And you're trying to figure out what is going on in this world. And you're standing on the streets of the city and you're surrounded by tall buildings and there's all these people coming and going and everything feels like it's just so insane. Like you've never been in a city before and people are pushing past you and they're bustling around and the cars are happening and the taxis and the lights and the bicyclists and everyone's yelling and there's flower vendors and fruit vendors and you're like, this is insanity. You're just like, everything's chaos. You just perceive the world as chaos. You don't really see cause and effect very clearly, right? You just think, oh, wow, here's like, you're just in the moment. You're overwhelmed with the moment, right? If you go in one of those skyscrapers and you go up to the 5th floor, the 6th floor, you can see the whole of the street. And you can say, oh, well, look here, this person just got bumped by that person, and now I can see that their energy is kind of in an angry manner, and then they bumped into somebody else, and you can see maybe a negative pathway of energy as one person gets triggered, and then they actually move down the street in an aggressive way, and then piss everybody else off as they're pushing people out of the way, or literally punching people. When I worked at the crystal store in Hollywood, there was a guy one day, he literally was running down the street punching people, just whoever, and the police had to go chase him down. It was just this guy who almost broke his nose. They they had come in and they bought some stones of protection, and then they went out and this guy got punched right in the nose by this guy who was on a rampage. Anyway, so you can see from this higher perspective, wow, I can see like the fruit vendors coming down here and the taxis, and you kind of get a better picture of it. Now, if you go up to the 50th floor, you can see several blocks. You may not be able to see, you might not feel you're not going to feel overwhelmed by the moment, right? You're going to have this higher vantage point of seeing all the different causes and effects of what's potentially happening. And you're in a place of emotional, you're not as engaged emotionally because you're not the one being bustled around on the street. You're like, that's an interesting thing that happens. This is what it's like to ascend into higher vibrational realities, higher vibrational dimensions. And when we talk about the infinite dimensional nature of the universe, we have to start understanding it in a different way than we have previously understood it. And we have this capability now because we are entering into 5D. What does this mean? This means that we are currently and have been and moving out of this limited range, this street view of third dimensional reality. Things are different when you're on the street versus when you're on the 50th floor. Things act differently. There are different rules. They're all connected. Let me think of how I can. Give me just 1 second. I have to think about how to describe this, and I think I'll come up with something good. I didn't come up with anything good. Maybe it'll come to me, though. Time spent in contemplation is always well worth it. Things change. The behaviors, the systems, the fundamental laws of the universe change when you are in a different vibration. And maybe we should start with this from your own personal perspective, because what does this all mean to you? Who cares? This is severely and totally important to you in your life, because we're talking about your emotional state. We're talking about your capabilities as a person. We're talking about your ability to rise into a state of near constant joy. And the reason why Unicult focuses on rising into a state of near constant joy isn't just because we're like, it's good to be happy. No, it's way more than that. Like when we ourselves rise into a state of unconditional love through radical action and through radical boundaries and through radical attention and focus on what we want to bloom and thrive, and we learn how to listen to our own hearts, our own true hearts, and our own compass, we are changing the vibratory nature of our mind, soul, body, world. That I don't like living on Earth. I tried to kill myself. I was like, this place fucking sucks. I'm not interested in living in the world that I was born into. My art is to change the entire vibration of Earth to be better for everyone. How do we do that? We do that by raising up our own vibration, our own consciousness, our own vibratory state into one of joy, authentic joy, that's listening to our true hearts as a compass. Our hearts connect to source energy. Our hearts radiate, resonate on the vibration of truth. And the world that I was born into is built on deception. And deception is unhealthy for everyone. Deception creates false timelines. So we'll talk about false timelines, and we're going to talk about all the ways. There's so much to this. I should have prepared. It's okay. We're going to get through it, and it's going to be fun. Okay, so how does this matter for you? You literally are ascending dimensionally currently. previously, in the past, we lived in a third dimensional reality. This is very dense. This is a very dense reality. And it's hard to manifest in. It's hard to do the spiritual gifts that we should naturally be able to do. It's hard to have telepathy. It's hard to be happy. Happiness is your uni given right, your true joy. But it's hard to have that authentic joy in this third dimensional deception-based reality that we were all born into. So as you raise your own vibration, you are ascending in that elevator dimensionally to have a higher vantage point of reality. And the rules change. They're the same, they reflect the same fundamental truth. The same fundamental truth is happening. The street, the fruit vendors are still on the street, the taxis are still going. But the laws by which you understand their operation are coming from a completely different place. You have so much more information to be able to see the multidimensional nature of reality. So you as an individual had the opportunity to ascend into a state we previously called enlightenment. Enlightenment is a state where you are not affected by the third dimensional reality, and you were able to cultivate a divine reality inside your own body, inside your own consciousness, that wasn't subject to the physical laws of the third dimensional reality. Monks that can keep their body temperature the same even if they're in freezing temperatures, people who can meditate for like 5 years without eating anything, people who can levitate. These are beings, these are people who have learned how to raise their vibration up to the fifth dimension or higher while being in the third dimensional reality. It's a very admirable thing to do, and it's quite amazing, honestly. Our society has learned how to demonize those people and turn them into witches and medicate them and call them crazy and scare everyone out of even trying, because we have systems of control that are hell-bent on deception. What's happening now is that our entire planet is ascending. Our entire planet's vibration is being lifted into the fifth dimensional reality. So as someone who was enlightened, let's say, I wasn't. I was third dimensional along with everybody else. I watched some old videos of myself the other day and I was like, yikes. But that's part of my journey, is to be there and feel all those feelings and to be trapped in that way. Is very hard to be enlightened in the third dimensional reality. But for those people who were, they were climbing an uphill battle. They were creating an entire worldview, an entire paradigm, an entire energy aura, and they were not letting other people get into their energy aura, and they were saying, nope, I know that this is the way, and they raised their vibration up and they maintained it hardcore. That's hard to do in a third dimensional reality. I would argue that in America, it's not possible. Before, the last couple of years, you would literally be incarcerated or medicated or put into a mental institution. Like, it's unless you know how to keep quiet and not let anybody know what you're doing. I mean, we're talking about enlightenment. This is something that's been going on forever. But if you talk about what people who are enlightened talk about in our society, there are systems set up to demonize you and to make you look crazy and to shut you down from even attempting that. It's a very difficult thing to be enlightened, especially in America in the last 30 years, 40 years. What does it mean then to be enlightened now, after 2020? We're currently on the precipice of entering into fifth dimensional reality. Whereas before, the world was against you and the world was pressing you down and making you feel like you couldn't do anything. Now the world's going to be lifting you up. Right now, currently, 2020, the reason why 2020 is insane is because 2020 is 50% third dimensional reality and 50% fifth dimensional reality, and we get to choose which one we tune into. Okay, there's a plague going around. Well, I get to be at home. I kind of like my house. Well, now I'm just so lonely. Okay, but why don't I make my home a really nice place? Okay, but now I'm worried about money. Okay, well, I'm getting unemployment, or I'm working from home, or, it's like you can tune into the negative side of the situation, or you can tune into the positive side of the situation. It is equal. It is in equal parts, the negative and the positive. And if you can learn how to tune into the positive, that you're being tested, all of us are being tested, we're being asked to align ourselves with the positive, with the fifth dimensional reality. We are being nudged into enlightenment because our entire planet is going to support the enlightenment of all. We're entering into a new golden age. It's still a couple hundred years away, but that's what we're headed toward. And you're part of that. You're on this planet for a reason, to help build the infrastructure so that we can successfully do that. You're here to help people move into the light. And how do you do that? You move into the light yourself. So the work that you do on your own internal journey, the work that you do to focus on the positive energy, is the work that's going to be pushing you into the fifth dimensional reality. And this is all important when we talk about time and we talk about the dimensional implications, because the even dimensions are structural and the odd dimensions are consciousness. So the fourth dimension is the structural nature of time. And the way that I explain this from your own personal perspective is that in the third dimension, like I was saying, you're on the street, somebody bumps you, you bump them back. That's a reactionary energy. That's an energy that is trapped in time. If somebody makes you mad and you want to make them mad, that's reactionary. That's third dimensional reality. If somebody does something that is against you, and you can say, you can take a breath, take a moment, and you can say, why did that person just do that? Why is that person trying to make fun of me on this video that's just positive? Why is that person, trying to hurt me? Why is this person, doing this or that? Why would they do that? If you have curiosity and empathy, that's fifth dimensional, because then you'll find unconditional love. You'll say, oh, they have a bad home life. Oh, they feel trapped. Oh, they're drunk. They're stuck in addiction. Wow. I'm so sorry for them. Like, I send them my love. I hope that they heal. Because if they heal, they wouldn't be doing that. That's fifth dimensional reaction. It's not trapped in time, right? You're taking time, you're taking the reactionary energy of your emotional state. And this is what we do wrong in the third dimension. We don't value our emotional state. It's overlooking the fundamental nature of reality. Kind of obvious, but whatever. And we only focus on physicality. That's why the devil's number is 666. 6 is not an evil number. 666 is not an evil, it's kind of evil, just because it's 100% focused on physical energy only. Our science is demonic in that way, and I just mean in the sense that it focuses entirely on physical energy and not on anything else. There are so many more things that are happening in our world that are not just physical. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, just think about your own life. How much of your own life is physical? How much of your own life is mental? How much of your own life is emotional? Huge percentages, right? Like when you think of your experience as an entity, and you could map it out, what percentage of your experience as an entity is imaginative? What percentage of your experience as an entity is emotional? What percentage of your experience is physical? You might be in a physical body, sure, but there's so much more going on than that. So when we ascend vibrationally into the fifth dimension, we're going to be able to do things that we couldn't otherwise do in the third dimensional reality. The actual laws are going to be different. For instance, time travel. When we talk about time travel, we don't understand that it's a mechanism of something that we're already doing. We are already time travelers. We have the technology in our mind. You can say, what if, into the future, and you can say, you can remember things in the past. You can literally rewrite your past. This seems insane, but it's true. That you are the creator of your timeline. So if you have an experience in your past that you want to change, where you say, I wish that I had stood up to that person, or I wish I had my friend with me during that situation, and we would have, I wish I had gone back. Imagine that you go back. Imagine that you change your situation, create a better timeline for yourself now. Does that mean that it actually changed their timeline also? No. But you don't even know what their timeline is. They might not have even remembered it, right? You get into a fist fight with somebody, you punch them, they punch you, you feel so bad, you think, I wish I had acted in a better way, and you wish you could go back in time and be like, hey, I see you're hurting, I care about you. And they say, wow. You rewrite that, and then you have compassion in your heart for that person rather than hating them or holding on to this grudge. Then maybe you wonder, what is their timeline? You don't even know. They might have remembered it as you punched them first. They might remember it. They might not even remember that you punched them. They might have been blackout drunk. You don't know. You don't know what someone else's timeline is. You don't have to worry about it. You listen to other people. You care about them. You care about how they feel. But for your own well-being and your own life, you can time travel back into the past. You can rewrite your past. You can create an entirely new timeline from which to operate. And you can time travel that way. That's fifth dimensional time travel. You can also time travel into the future, and you can manifest things that are in alignment with your true heart. This is the thing that we didn't understand. I didn't understand with manifestation. It's not about what you want. It's not about what your ego wants. Your ego's never going to get their way if it's out of alignment with what you're supposed to have, which is in alignment with your heart. You will get exactly what you deserve, which is in alignment with your heart. If you get difficult things, that is a gift. That is a blessing for you to work through, to be stronger, to learn the lessons that you're meant to learn. If you see the world in this way, you will be ascending into a higher vibrational, state of near constant joy. That's the goal. Can we prove all of this? It doesn't matter. It matters that we listen with our hearts. We think with our hearts. And when we think with our hearts, we tap into truth. If it's true for you, it's likely true on a cosmic level. So what is time? Time is something that exists, that we are subject to in the third dimension. Time is above us, and the way that we can think about this is by thinking of the second dimension, which is a plane, and the third dimension, which is 3D. And we can think of a 3D sphere passing through a plane, which is second dimension. This 3D plane, as it passes through the sphere, is still going to be a sphere no matter what in the third dimension. But from the perspective of the plane, that 3D sphere is going to be experienced very differently than its entire third dimensional reality. What do I mean? I mean that as this 3D sphere passes through the plane, it's going to start as a pinpoint, and it's going to grow into a circle, and then it's going to shrink again, and that's what it's going to look like when it passes through the plane. This experience is a perfect metaphor for how we as third dimensional entities experience the passing of time. Time is not the complete fourth dimension. We are experiencing time from a lower dimensional reality. We're experiencing slices of time as it goes through the third dimension. We don't have to worry so much about this, but we can know that as we raise our energy vibrationally, our science is going to change. Our understandings of the universe are going to change. And time as the fourth dimension is not the end of the story. We are living in an infinite dimensional reality. When we think of time and how it affects us and all the things that happen, that's just one dimension. That's just one dimension that we understand. All of our emotions can be affected. If you want to understand this, we can maybe think of astrology, right? It's like, wow, the other day Mars went retrograde. And I was like, I felt all my power turn back in on myself. And I was like, why do I even do anything? like, these people don't appreciate me. Those are the feelings I had. And then I found out Mars was retrograde, which is all your power that you're trying to put out there just gets turned back on yourself. And you have to contend with the energy that you're putting out and your ego of like needing power. And you have to deal with that. And so when we look at the planets and the planetary effect on our emotional bodies and on the cosmic happenings of the world, we can start to understand that if we just replace planets with dimensions, there are infinite potentials for dimensions to have these types of effects on our consciousness, on our psyche, on our collective, on our lives. As we ascend into the fifth dimension, we will be understanding these other dimensions a lot more easier because we'll be rising up and up into the highest way of being. The fourth dimension is the expansion and freedom from our emotional reactionary responses. It is the mastery of ourselves and our projection through time-space. This can and will be accomplished technologically, but it can also be accomplished individually. By seeing each situation for the truth of what it is, you will begin to evolve your own fourth dimensional comprehension. When you respond with love, you gain mastery over the situation. So let's talk about false timelines. False timelines are created by lies. This is black magic. Black magic is to create false timelines. I believe that's the role of the CIA. Like, what is the role of the CIA? I think it's to create false timelines, and they're doing it now. And they've been doing it for a long time, and it's just boring, honestly, and it bores me to death. It just bores me to death, I swear. When you create a false timeline through lying and through the obsession with physicality and the obsession with creating physical structure and only operating in physical structure, you are misled. You are misled. You cut yourself off from your own power. You cut yourself off from your divine truth. You cut yourself off from your ability to bring in higher energy. And the thing that people don't realize is that if you focus all your attention on the physical world, you can master it, kind of. But if you integrate higher consciousness into the physical realm, you can make it into paradise. Like, why wouldn't you make it into paradise? And I'm just pissed. I'm just pissed at the leaders and the people who have led this planet into the depravity that it exists in. And it pisses me off. So you can break free from false timelines by living in your authentic truth. You can stop the creation of false timelines by not participating in lying. And the reason why lying isn't cool is because truth is. Like, please, I don't have any other words to explain this. Like, meditate on this if you don't understand it. Truth is. There is nothing other than truth. If you feel something, if you feel uncomfortable, but you lie and you go along with something without talking about your feelings, you create a false timeline. If you pretend to be somebody you're not, you create a false timeline. These aren't real. They're pretend manifestations of toxic energy. When you create a false timeline, when you lie to somebody and you trick them, you are then responsible for maintaining that false timeline. That's what I believe the CIA is. I know they were talking about making everything that the American public believes untrue, and then they had to create these false timelines through media to get people to operate in, to think that, America's the best place, that we, it worked. We actually had an effect on the whole world. The whole world has been brainwashed by Hollywood. It's impressive. It's impressive. It's still boring. Because the truth is what matters. When you're putting all your energy into maintaining a false timeline, you're ignoring the truth. You're ignoring your heart. You're ignoring your authenticity. You're ignoring the way that people actually are. The way that we see this manifest in our society is like, America's the greatest nation on earth. And then you see all these homeless people on the streets. That's simply not true. If we have homelessness, we're not a wealthy nation. So it's this brain trick of like ignoring the truth to live in a false reality, which we have all been subject to doing. And I understand why people lie. It's the world we've lived in. I've never lied. There's been a few times when, you know, I've said things that I later clarified. I've always come out. If I've ever said things, I've always come out with the truth. And people don't believe me when I say that, and that's okay. It just shows how much people lie. I was working at a preschool once, and we did this like class exercise to see, and these are like some of the nicest people you could ever meet, like preschool teachers. Like all they do is like care about kids and like social justice. Like preschool teachers in Seattle, like they're the best, like the best people. Like I would trust them with my life. We were doing a activity where it was like, organize yourself by if you think you're totally a liar or if you're totally truth teller. And the majority of people were on the liar side, like pretty close to the wall. And I was like, whoa, like even like the preschool teachers are lying, you know, to each other and to their friends and family and everything. We don't need to lie. When you lie, it creates a false timeline. It creates the effort that you have to maintain. And all that it never is, a lie is never helping you. You might think, I'm in love with somebody and I don't want them to know that I think this other person is attractive. And I don't want them to know that I'm talking to this other person. Well, that doesn't help you. It doesn't help anybody if you lie to them about that. Because your heart says, I love this person and I like this person. And if you were to listen to your heart, you would make space. You would figure out a world. You would have to create a world where your true heart is accepted. When we lie, it means that we don't think that our true heart can be accepted. We think that we need to be something other than we are because we don't feel like we can be loved for who we are. You can be loved for who you are. We don't need to lie anymore. And by letting go of artificial timelines, we will enter into and ascend beyond true time. And true time is happening now. COVID gave us a glimpse of true time. What does it mean to operate on your own schedule? We're living in false time. We have been. False time is part of the third dimensional duality trick. The weekend, the work week, it's a brainwash. That's not natural. Everybody doesn't show up to work feeling the same way that they felt the day before. But we expect the same level of work to happen every single day. There's not even any opportunity to take breaks. And there's no opportunity to take breaks. You get, 2 weeks out of the year if you're lucky? That's not enough time. Everybody who works a 40-hour work week says, I could do the same amount of work in 32 hours in 4 days. Everybody wants a 3-day weekend. Everybody, even the bosses. So why are we still working 5 days a week? It doesn't make any sense. We're brainwashed. Our authentic time is what you're in when you are free from all expectation. It's the time of whenever you go to bed, whenever you wake up, whenever you eat. Since I've been on authentic time, sometimes I eat breakfast, sometimes I don't. If I'm on a schedule, I eat the same thing every day at the same time because I've got to regulate my energy to be marching on artificial time. That's why coffee exists. That's why coffee is the most popular drug in the world. Okay, that's time and the dimensional implications. Thank you for joining me. I think we did a good job considering the fact As we rise up into our interdimensional powers, we will have access to many, many other dimensions that we have been previously unaware of. Each dimension interacts with our consciousness in a unique way. Not all dimensions are spatial, and not all will be comprehended by each form, but as we expand, we will grow in the ways that cannot be expressed in words at this time. The last thing I want to explain is the spirit of uni. The spirit of uni is that which connects all dimensions. It's the lifeblood of the universe. It's the conscious energy of love and humor that is in every single person, planet, atom, quark. It's the one thing that everything has in common. That's what the spirit of uni is. All right, don't forget to come to the new member mixer. It's just going to be a little Zoom meeting. We'll just hang out for probably half an hour, say hey, ask how everyone's doing. If you're in Unicult, you'll get that link in the Discord. You can text 1833 Unicult. Uni bless.